Yo, what is up guys? It is esports content entertainment coming at you guys with another video here today. And in today's video, I will be giving you guys my LEC 2023 Spring Split Week 3 recap. So, we are done with the regular season portion of the LEC 2023 Spring Split, and we will be moving on to the BO3 stage. And the teams not moving on to the BO3 stage for the LEC 2023 Spring Split will be Team Heretics and Excel. We will not be seeing them again until the LEC 2023 Summer Split. Now, I want to let you guys know about this before I start covering what happened during the LEC 2023 Spring Split Week 3. Yes, I will be doing a video covering the LCS 2023 Spring Split Playoffs. I was supposed to do a video about that last week, but I just got really busy actually, and I just didn't have enough time. So I thought about it, and I basically came to the conclusion that I will be combining last week's matches and this week's matches together to give you guys the full picture of the LCS 2023 Spring Split Playoffs before we get to the finals weekend for the LCS 2023 Spring Split. So before I even cover, talking about the teams for the LEC 2023 Spring Split so far, is that there has been a lot of, I'll say interesting conversation, surrounding the format for the LEC. Some people like it, some people think it's boring. I actually have to beg to differ on that. I've actually thoroughly enjoyed the LEC current format that they've actually chose to, adapt this year for many different reasons, but the main reason of it being the BO1s, okay? So a lot of people have this notion that if you just give the teams more time, they'll just get a whole lot better, right? Well, some of the times that's true, and sometimes that's not true, okay? So, just imagine this. Imagine if the LEC played out the LCS format that the LCS is currently still with right now, right? So in that format, you have basically 9 BO1s in a 2-round robin. So that means if the LEC actually had last year's format, that means you would literally be watching Excel and Team Heretics for 9 more games, okay? Now, let's look at it into perspective. Excel weren't even good last split, so seeing 9 more games of them would have been just, man, I would have probably just had someone throw acid in my eyes or some shit. Or you could simply not have that, and you could just play just 3 weeks of BO1s, basically just 9 games, and that's it, and then you just move on. Because I think if a team cannot get it together in 3 weeks in 9 games, yeah, they probably really shouldn't be moving on. And the reason why I like this format more is because it already eliminates teams like Team Heretics and Excel early on. I do not need to see more games of these squads. I'm sorry. I would like if they implemented this format for the LCS earlier this year. Do I need to see 9 more games of Immortals and Golden Guardians? Pretty much, this makes the actual BO1s matter a whole lot more. Specifically, when it comes to, bottom tier teams, right? So let's say you're a considerably bottom tier team from, layman's terms, right? If you drop a game to your other fellow bottom team feeder, friend, obviously, I'm using that pretty facetiously, right? But just hear me out, okay? So, let's say, arguably back in the day, Astralis and SK were, considerably bad, right? So they would face each other, and it wouldn't matter because, obviously, they're not doing anything anyway, playoff-wise or just yearly-wise anyway. Now, it impacts more because SK Gaming knows if they lose to a team like Astralis, how are you going to get your other wins in other places? You see, that inherently right there makes it matter more. The 9 games these teams play matter way more than if you were to just play 9 more games and adding up to an 18 game, BO, double round robin of BO1s, right? It's just nonsense at the end of the day with some people and how they think about it. This is a much better way of doing it because, let's be honest you guys, BO1s are pretty much just glorified scrims to a certain point. It's basically on the aspect of whoever gets the more OP champions pretty much wins. Whoever and also side selection matters on that front as well. But that's just my opinion, though. If you think this format's boring, whatever, it's fine. But I've wanted, the LEC and the LCS to play more BO3s. And now, look at it this way. You eliminate two horrible teams that would have done bad in BO3s anyway get to BO3s, because obviously playing BO3s just obviously is better overall, because the best regions on the planet, the LPL and the LCK, play BO3. So yes, if you want to be on their level, I've always said this, the LCS needs to bring back BO3s and the LEC as well, okay? You bring back BO3s. Now you look at it from a top 4 perspective. The top 4 make playoffs, right? Because, like, let's just use an example of, like, last year, and also a combination of what this year would be as well. A 5th and 6th place team, for the most part, are also not that good either. So why not just eliminate, you know, basically 5 through 8 just with a BO3 system? That way you're just getting the top 4 teams and matches against those teams, okay? I just like their format in just every single way. Their format is way better, and all these BO1s definitely have an impact and matter way more. And then each stage, you're already getting rid of the worst and worst teams until, in theory, you should have, like, the best 4 teams out of the 2 stages, right? So that's just my perspective on the format, okay? So let's start. How am I going to do these videos from here on out? So if we're in the regular season portion, I'll just do it pretty much like how the standings are, you know, and then just kind of work my way up, right? All right, so let's start with XL. XL brought in Abadage for the LEC 2023 Spring Split Week 3. Abadage used to play, obviously, in the Turkish League with Closer. He played on, you know, 100 Thieves. As you remember, he won the LCS 2021 Summer Split. He played on Schalke Null Fear for a little bit there, and he, like, people forget, this guy was pretty bad for the most part, right? And then all of a sudden during 2021 he got really, really good, came over to NA, won a title, went to Worlds twice, you know, he's been to the finals multiple times at this moment in, you know, in his career. So pretty good career overall. But I think people were super sour on this guy last year, and I don't really know why. I thought he actually played fine last year. I think people like to hone in on his bad games, but when he's on, he definitely knows how to play out a lead. He can definitely, you know, do some damage in a team, right? But there's nothing you can really do in this team. XL were already just dog shit last split, and I know people said, well, it's because they got rid of Targamas. No, Targamas was bad, guys. Okay, so this is how analysis should work. Analysis should be updated to what you know currently happening right now, as well as keeping in mind that, you know, other factors can play in as well. I'm not saying that you should just throw out a player just because they're playing bad on just that basis, because if this is a veteran player, then you kind of want to give them the freedom of the added aspect that, okay, maybe this person can bring it back together. The eye test could be really good on the player too. There's other variables and factors too, but given how bad Targamas and Patrick were playing last split, you cannot keep Targamas. He was just one of the worst supports in the LEC. I know people said it's because people started to hone in on the thing where he won Spring last year with G2, and, you know, they finished 2nd place in Summer as well. Guys, Flacket and Targamas as a bot lane were pretty, like, not. Okay, I'll say this way. They were good for what G2 needed, but they were never the best bot lane. At all. They were never the best bot lane. They weren't ever really great in general. They were just solid, okay? I never thought Targamas was actually that good to begin with. I think that he peaked toward the end of Spring and looked pretty solid at MSI, but after that, right when G2 got into that lower bracket, or when they faced Vitality, and then they faced Misfits and Fnatic, and then Rogue, and then they won, right? That, right there, all the way into MSI, I thought he was actually playing pretty good, and then right when they make the top 4 at MSI, when they played against Team 1, and he just got destroyed by Carrier, and then when he came back, to play in the Summer Split for the LEC last year in 2022, he's not been that good. I think he had, like, his one shot to win a trophy, like, ever, and he did, and that's good, but he's not really that good. I think it was mainly due to Caps. Obviously, having Caps as a mid laner is just disgusting in general, right? Then he also had Yanko, so he had 2 of the best players ever to play European League of Legends. So yeah, he's gonna most likely win a title. And this was a year where G2 weren't supposed to win anything by last year's standards, right? I had them still finishing top 3, but I didn't think they'd actually, you know, win the splits. And I love G2, right? So yeah, Targamas was a right person to replace out of XL. And they got in Limit, and Limit was pretty much just a lateral move. He didn't make them better. He didn't make them worse. He just made them... He made the bot lane not lose as hard, but Patrick has not been that good. Patrick's been a player where people just randomly overrate for no reason. I don't know where that comes from. This guy's shown nothing. This guy's never really actually done anything. You know, he looked good when he was calling himself Sheriff on H2K, remember that? And he had that really good Xayah play that everyone remembers, but like outside of that, Patrick's not that good. I really don't understand the love this guy gets. He's not that good. Yeah, he's a top 6 ADC. I will give him that most years outside of this year, right? But I'm being honest with you guys, he's not that good. Okay, or maybe the team just makes him look bad, okay? And support is also a big indicator about how good an ADC can play. But people talk about Patrick as like he's upset or Han Sama or even reckless to a certain extent. Come on, bro. It's like, nah, stop it. Patrick ain't that good, okay? But Patrick, I think, with the right team, can shine, but that has also been not shown as well. So you have Patrick, who I think has had a bad year overall. Both supports, Targamas when he played with him and when he played with Limit, bad overall. They replaced Vethio, like I said before, with Abadage. I think Abadage played as well as he could. He was already thrown into a pretty bad situation with Excel. You know, like in general, like most people thought, well, if Vethio starts underperforming, then, you know, they'll just put in Abadage, and they did. Now, the whole thing about Vethio, in my own personal opinion, is Vethio didn't look good in 2021. I don't know where that comes from. He did not look that good in 2021. He looked good in 2022, and I give him credit for looking good in 2022, and then when he finally got to be on a team like Excel with the players that they initially got in the offseason of, you know, 2022, I was like, okay, this is finally going to be a team that can play around this guy, and that can actually have him with the facilitating jungler like Xerxes. So in theory, back when we thought this team wasn't going to be super horse shit, and it could all work out with the combination of a solid bot lane, good solid top laner, jungler who could just facilitate all the lanes, right? That's not happening, right? And people forget, Misfits last year had this thing basically of, is Vethio this good, or is the team around him not as good, and he just looks good on a bad team, or is he really that good? Because people forget, last year, Misfits got a lot of wins that teams definitely threw into them. A lot of wins. Fnatic did it, so did G2, so did Rogue. Like, Misfits got literally gifted free wins because teams just couldn't close properly. That's why they got a lot of their wins too. Now, if you choose to debate me on that, I don't have to. Go watch the games. I know what happened. I watched all of them. I watch all these games myself, right? So, it's a combination of three things. Was he that good? Was he only good because everyone else just didn't look as good as him? Or was it just because other teams just threw into him? Remember, guys, when Misfits made playoffs, both splits, because they did make playoffs, they got destroyed. 3-0. It wasn't even close. He was just not as good as in the playoffs. I love how people just choose to ignore his playoff performances as if like those don't matter. His playoff performances were horrible, and people said he's the only good player on the team. I understand that. But he wasn't good in just being his only, like, him being the only person to carry on the team, he wasn't good, okay? He was not as good, he just fucking sucks, you know? And this year, he sucked for the most part. He's bad, you know? So, he pretty much, to me, just had a one good year, and that's it, you know? I really don't know where the hype comes from with this guy. You know, yes, last year he played well, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But this year, he's played bad, and he's only played good one of his years ever in European League of Legends, right? So, let's go to Xerxes. Xerxes is the worst jungler in the LEC. He sucks. I don't know why they choose to keep this guy. Does he perform like a god in scrims? Is Xerxes secretly like Canyon and Owner in scrims? Because why do they keep this guy? He sucks bad. He's trash. He's so dog shit. Why? He's just a bad player. I'm sorry. You know? Like, people are going to point to him playing well on Astralis last year. Here's what I think happened. I think he played a style that had to show people that he wasn't actually a bad player to kind of bridge his way into this year. Because if you look at him last year play on that Astralis lineup, he actually looked competent. He looked pretty solid for the most part, but this year he's just been one of the worst junglers in the LEC. And I think last year, coupled with Vetio, was just one of those fluke years where, yeah, he only looked as decent as he did based off the circumstance. Remember, guys, Astralis last summer split, had Vizicachi, who was clearly the worst top laner in the league, okay? So, you're also going to go to Otawamne. Otawamne, like I've said, is their best player, but Otawamne played pretty poorly in the final week, getting solo killed by Adam constantly, and like just not looking as good as he did. Because I think overall he's been the best part about Excel, but Otawamne's not this like hard carry top laner where you could just pick, I don't know, the set for him or the Olaf and he just carries games. Evidenced by his Olaf game, he's not going to be carrying shit, right? So I really don't know what Excel does. They finish. Keep in mind, the LEC pretty much has the LCS, like summer format where like top 8 make the playoffs, right? So here's the crazy part. Excel have last year made playoffs both times when only 6 teams can make playoffs in 18 games, right? In a double round, 18 game, round robin, right? But can't make playoffs when fewer teams make it and there's less games. That doesn't even make sense. Do you want to know why? They can somehow make playoffs last year twice with more games, right? And get in there at the 6th place, right? Remember, guys, last year, they were 1 game away from beating Fnatic. As an org, they were 1 game away from beating Fnatic to actually face, Mad Lions to go to Worlds, actually. It was that close, right? They're pretty much like 1 call away from winning the series, right? And the thing here, I don't understand is this kind of format would directly benefit Excel because there's more teams that could make it in. Because what was Excel's narrative? Oh, they can't make it in. They were always like 7th. They always just narrowly missed out. Now you don't have to narrowly miss out. You must have to be pretty fucking bad to not make playoffs with 8 teams. Like, you must be pretty fucking bad, right? Literally, scrap the roster, start from scratch. I think you should do that. Scrap the entire roster, start from scratch. The mood is completely dead. I think if you want to keep a player, you just keep Abadage, and that's it. I think you can't really blame him for what happened. That's kind of unfair to him. So I'll say, yeah, just keep Abadage. If you want to build around him, go and do that, because I think you should scrap the whole roster. Mood's bad, probably in the team. They're probably fucking getting fisted in scrims. Like, bro, it's a joke out here with Excel. Get this clown show out of here. Thank God I do not have to talk about this dog shit fucking org for about a good 2 months. I'll take my vacation on that. Team Heretics. So Team Heretics is a little bit of a different story. So I'll start right here. Team Heretics actually finished 6th place in the Winter Split regular season. And people were like, oh, okay, that's kind of where we predicted them. Like, people forget, Team Heretics was supposed to be this bad last split, right? They actually played better than most people expected last split. There was also some games last split where they actually definitely should have won more. I will give them that. Now, they actually, in a BO3, people forget this, in the BO3 against Team Vitality, the very first round of the BO3 stage, they actually had a very good shot at beating them. It was very close. Then they lose to Vitality, and then they lose to SK, and then they're just out, right? So, overall, you go, okay, this panned out for them a whole lot better, right? But remember, guys, even if you lose in the BO3 stage early on, both your matches, you're still going to have, like, a bottom 7th to 8th finish. And if you're the first team out, yeah, you're definitely going to finish toward the nearest bottom of that, right? Then coming to this split, because, like, the strengths of last split, I will say this, Evie played okay last split. He played okay. I was like, okay, this is not a bad player. I've seen Evie for years with Detonation Fuck Me. I thought he was pretty serviceable in Japan. He was pretty good in Japan. I mean, guys, this is Japan, so there's not much best there, right? Well, except Dragon Ball Z and, Goku and Vegeta and Gohan, right? But Evie was one of the worst top laners in the LEC. He had, like, 2 good games throughout the entirety of these BO1s. That Renekton game he played against Mad Lions, and that Cassante game, where they needed to actually win that game to get into, having that tiebreaker scenario, right? This guy's bad. I don't know if they replace him. I don't know what you do with him, but he's just bad. He just completely sprinted it, okay? Jankos, I thought, played some of his best League of Legends on this team, this split. despite a lot of people thinking that he was washed for whatever reason, I thought he played really, really good, actually, in my own personal opinion. I thought he played great. He was everything the team needed. And the team was everything he wasn't actually looking for, because Ruby had also, like, 2 good games the entire split. That Ari game was actually pretty impressive, and one of those Azir games that he played looked really good. I think he played an Azir game, or maybe it was another champion, but Ruby and Evie had a combined total of, like, 2 good games the entire split, right? Then, the bot lane, Jack Spectra and Mersa, I've been shitting on them since winter. I've been shitting on them in each Cloud9 podcast episode. We focus on the LEC. This bot lane is fucking horrible, okay? Jack Spectra, literally, if he's out of laning phase, if he's not down 50 CS getting fisted in lane, or Mersa's just not turbo sprinting it every game, Jack Spectra does play team fights very well. Yeah, only if you're down a good, 10,000 gold, he's got like 2 items, your enemy ADC has like 4 items, you know what I mean? Like, he's just, you can get what Jack Spectra does in a better ADC to give you a better laning phase, right? And that tiebreaker game of Team Heretics is so indicative of their horrible bad split. Jankos goes in, kills 2 people, somehow, and he dies. Dragon's given over, true, but Jankos managed to make it a 5v3 in a late game scenario where Team Heretics were coming back into the game against Mad Lions. A game that Mad Lions shouldn't even have been in that spot anyway. They should have already won the game, given their game state, right? But good old Ruby TP's in on Talia, drinking his fucking Goku Kool-Aid and eating his sensu beans, thought he was Super Saiyan 3, went in there and just fucking died, and you're like, oh, bro, you're trash. Man, I don't know what you do. This whole roster is pretty much just bad at this point. I thought they played decent in winter, but everything that made them decent in winter just made them look just bad here. Like, at least in winter, they had some pop-off games here and there. Like, they won more games than they probably should have, based off maybe other teams playing badly, but, give or take how the league looks, right? What do you do for roster changes with Team Heretics? You just get rid of I don't know what you do, right? Because you have a Japanese player who can't talk to any of your teammates. You have a Korean player who also can't talk to any of your teammates. And you also have Jankos who could easily hard carry a team. But if you have players this bad, it doesn't matter. If the anchors on your legs are pulling you down that hard, you are about to drown. And this ocean is pretty big, and Team Heretics are definitely drowning, okay? Like, I really don't know what they do, honestly. I think you should definitely replace Top. Definitely replace Evie. I don't know. I'm not... It call me crazy, but do you give up on Ruby this early? Like, do you give up on Ruby this early? Those pop-off games he had looked pretty impressive. Now, it's all about finding that consistency, right? But Jankos has never really looked good in a 2v2 combo with his mid laner ever. Even when he had players like Ryu or players like Perks, he looked good with Perks to a certain extent, but even with Caps, he never looked good with Caps either. Now, is it a mid jungle synergy problem that's with Team Heretics? I don't really know. But my thing here is this team also needs to make massive changes. Yeah, you can replace the bot lane. That's fine too. But if Ruby and Evie are out here sprinting it every game, that's not going to make a difference either, So that's just my thing about it with Team Heretics. They just need to make pretty much four out of the 5 players pretty much need to go. If you want to make the case for Ruby because you still think he might be able to have a pop-off split in summer, who knows? Actually, that might be a possibility. But yeah, pretty much for excellent Team Heretics, 4 out of the 5 players definitely need to be unemployed right now. This is egregious to watch. All right, thank God I can not have to talk about these dog shit orgs the next 2 months or so. All right, let's keep going. Mad Lions. So, Mad Lions played just about as bad as most people thought they would last split. Last split, they actually overperformed, and I thought, okay, this is kind of like what I thought this team would be when you kind of looked at all the pieces they brought together, and you looked at it and went, okay, I can see how this works, probably minus the Carzzy, change, because I still think if you slotted in Unforgiven into this team with Hylissang, I think they'd be a whole lot better, personally. Because my biggest problem with Mad Lions, and I like Mad Lions too, but the problem here is, Carzzy, he's just a coin flip ADC. Hylissang is literally a coin flip support. Niski had a pretty down split, all things considered. El Yoya had pretty much his worst split that I think he's ever played. I think Chasey's been one of the more better top laners in the LEC, despite Mad Lions finishing in 8th place, actually. Now, Mad Lions could easily get it together because, you know, their players have a plethora of playoff experience, pretty much just minus Chasey, obviously, right? So, there's a good chance this squad looks a lot better in the BO3 stage than this stage, right? Because that happened with Koi last split, too. They looked pretty ass in the BO1 stage, but in BO3s, they got it together, they drafted and prepped for that one team they need to prep for, and they just looked like a really solid team, and then they made it to what? The 3rd place match, actually, right? So that's my thing, too, and that's kind of what I want to focus on for Koi and Mad Lions, not talking about them together, but this concept, right? This concept being, when you play BO1s, for anyone who's watching this, who's considerably new to the game, when you're playing BO1s, it is much harder to prep for like 3 different teams than it is to prep for 1. Now, going into a BO3, playing against 1 team compared to 3 a week, you can only prep for that 1 team, and you can draft and prepare to the strengths and weaknesses of said team. So, can Mad Lions be a team where they can just get it together in the BO3 stage? Because I think in the BO3 stage, they'll actually play a lot better. I'm not willing to give up on this team just yet, because even if you look at the next matches coming up for Mad Lions, the next matches for the group stage for them, I think they're facing off against Vitality, and there's a good shot that they can actually take down Vitality, and if they can't, then I think they can win their next match, actually, because I think this team will perform a lot better in the BO3 stage compared to the BO1s. But yeah, Mad Lions looked pretty bad for the most part. And here's the biggest issue with Mad Lions is the added bonus that, and this is with every, and I don't know, it's like with every Mad Lions roster, it's like they'll play a good early game, but they don't know when to give something up. It's not about knowing how to play the early game. It's about knowing that at certain moments in the game, you just don't need to do anything more after getting a lead. You can simply just push it as far as you can get it, and then you back off and recall and reset, right? So that's the biggest issue with Mad Lions. Their macro play got way worse. Their team fighting got way worse. Like, everything that was good about this team in winter just got way worse. Did they just overperform for winter? I don't know. But the thing here is they've gotten substantially worse, and in the BO3 stage, can they play spoiler? Because right now, if they don't actually play out the BO3 stage getting back to form, they're not going to MSI, right? There's a good chance they could still make it to MSI, but they definitely need to play in MSI form, whatever that looks like for Mad Lions for all these years, in a way that they could actually make it there. Because right now, where I'm standing at, it ain't looking good, okay? Alright, so Koi, pretty much the same statements I'm going to echo with Koi as for Mad Lions. They just got substantially worse. You know, Larson's not going to be this, like, mega hard carry. He's going to play his lane, farm up, then carry, according to how strong he is. Larson is not a bad player, and is their best player anyway. The bot lane of Koi, Comp and Trimby got massively worse. I don't know what happened to these guys, but like what happened in Winter Split, in the BO3 stage, they just started clapping people, except against G2, right? So, yeah, the bot lane of Koi just got worse. Malrong, not even just a coin flip jungler, is literally a sacrifice jungler where he just sacrificed himself for the team. And even on games where he is on a carry, it's like he can't properly get the team ahead. Like, if they solely focus on him being, like, on a carry, then the other laners can't really win in a dominant fashion, so he can obviously play more towards getting them ahead of the map, right? Shigenda had a few okay games. I don't know what this Shigenda swap for Otawamne was for. Like, let's be honest here, he's just not as good as Otawamne. Poor man's Otawamne. He's not good. He sucks for the most part, and I personally think they need to make a top lane roster change come summer if they actually want to go back to Worlds this year for this Rogue/Koi lineup, because this is looking like real bad right here. And I don't mean like real bad on like Heretics and XL level, but it's like, given the fact that we know these players can play a whole lot better, just looking at them in the BO1 stages from last split to this split, it's just been pretty just super underwhelming, okay? Let's go to Fnatic. So Fnatic started out as one of the worst teams, obviously, during this split, right? Then they apparently got COVID, and they started playing from home. Now, there's two distinct factors to this. When they played week 1, they looked like one of the worst teams in the LEC. They were fucking horrible, okay? Then they play at home, and they started winning a lot of their games. They actually went on a 4-game winning streak. They even went on a 4-game winning streak to the point where they actually beat G2 in a very dominant fashion, which was good, right? I want to see that on stage. I want to see that performance that Fnatic gave on stage. Like, I don't know if they're going to get past the BO3 stage. I don't know if they're going to win any BO3s, actually. But they got enough wins to get into the BO3 stage, right? Because remember, last split was the very first split this org had never made it past the first round. That's crazy, right? So, like I said, Oscarin definitely got better with each week, but I don't think it's a better in like the way that people think. I think he's played okay for the most part. I think he looks all right. Like, I'll say it sub-average. I'll say just below average. He looks like below average, but, you know, at least he has some firepower in him to carry some games, because I know people were ragging on the Oscarin pickup. The only reason why I was ragging on it was because I didn't actually think it thought it actually fixed any of their issues, because I really hadn't seen this guy play. But Wonder was turbo sprinting it, so they literally needed anybody, not him, right? So getting Oscarin looks like it's panned out to a okay degree, right? Then you look at Razork. He's been their best player by far. Humanoid synergy with Razork has been pretty shit for the most part, but it looked good in like key games they needed to win. Humanoid looked good in some games, but still there were some games where it's like, bro, how are you doing no damage on LeBlanc? LeBlanc is literally a champion built around doing that much damage. Crazy, right? And then after that, you had the Reckless Advian bot lane. Reckless and Advian have looked okay as a 2v2. Like, they've looked solid enough. Like, not a great 2v2, not a bad 2v2, just a going even bot lane, right? So that's my issue with Fnatic is, you know, can they replicate their 4-game win streak performance on stage? Because that's where it really not only just matters, but anybody could pretty much win from at home when you're playing in a comfortable environment, right? That needs to happen on the stage. And if they look like their week 1 performance, it looks pretty bad for them, right? But to be fair, let's be honest here, Fnatic don't make it past the BO3 stage. They're probably going to make more roster changes anyway, okay? All right, let's go to SK Gaming. SK Gaming definitely looked a lot worse this split. I think Exakick and Irrelevant still looked good for the most part, but Marcoon had more off games than on games. Certus had more off games than on games. And DOS, he gets an added benefit of looking that good and his synergy with Execute. Did SK Gaming overperform last split? I don't think it was overperforming. They did actually look pretty solid. But in the BO3 stage, they definitely won some games where they definitely should have lost if the team with the lead had played out their lead better, right? So my thing here is the upsides that made SK Gaming good last split are not the same upsides that have been benefiting them. What I think they need to do is get back to that really good early game that they used to play out a lot and then work on that. Because if they don't get their shit together, man, they're getting knocked out pretty early this split, okay? All right, top 4. Team Vitality. So the scoreboard is going to say they're 6-3, 2 wins. I think Upset has been a massive upgrade for them. I think Photon's still been one of the best top laners in the LEC. Perks has had a lot of more down games. Like, this has been one of Perks' worst splits. I'm being honest here. Like, Perks has looked pretty bad this split, right? Which is crazy because last year he looked pretty good for Team Vitality, right? Sorry, give me one sec. Gotta blow my nose. Jeez. Holy crap. So, Perks looking not as good is going to be a huge detriment to Team Vitality because is he one of the worst mid laners in the BO3 stage? I think he's tied with Certus right now. Bo, if Bo is on, he's playing pretty good. But if there's games where Bo just isn't getting his team ahead, like, he's he makes so many bad decisions when he doesn't get his team ahead. It can and hurt Team Vitality, right? So, also, Team Vitality's playstyle is very much not even just play through upset. It's pretty much just, you know, if we have a lead, then they can close out. But if they don't have a lead, they don't really play well from behind, and they actually don't play the later stages where if you were in late game, you actually play that very well either. So that's my issue with Team Vitality. Their last games actually looked pretty good. There was the blowout game they had too as well. So that's my thing is people have been all built into the team. I've watched Vitality in the LEC since they began as an org in the LEC. So I'm not going to sit here and go, yeah, they're going to win the split with upset. Not yet. Okay. If Team Vitality can make it past the BO3 stage, then I'm okay. Then that's probably making top 4 should be a thing for them. Because they've only ever made like top 4 in essentially, what, 1 year? Yeah, it was in 2018. That's the only year they ever made, like, top 4 twice, and they went to Worlds in that year as well. So, that's my thing with Team Vitality. It's just, if you give Upset the resources, I think that's the best insurance policy for this team to actually win. And even when Photon's ahead, I don't know why they don't play through Photon either. Like, if Photon's ahead, just play through him too. Like, they have 2 lanes they can play through, but also if the enemy teams can tackle the bot lane, that's also going to be a pretty, like, crazy thing too, because, like, if Team Vitality are behind and one of the best players is behind, then that's not going to be a strength for them, right? You'd have to just lean on towards playing through Photon, which is definitely going to be something that they haven't been doing, right? So G2, obviously, what do you say about G2, honestly? Like, okay, Broken Blade is a coin flip top laner so far. I think there are some games he looks really good, some games he looks really bad. Literally, definition, coin flip, right? He had that really great Olaf game where he was just massively carrying G2, right? But there's games where, for the most part of the split, he's not really been that Olaf guy, you know, the hard carry top laner, right? He's been kind of a top laner that's been the weakness for his team. I think Yike doesn't get enough credit for how well he's actually been playing, but it's so much easier to play out as well as he has when you have a team like G2. But people can use that analogy, but it's like he's been a defining factor in their games, you know? Caps, he still can massively carry games. That Silas game looked really good from him. He's had a pretty good year overall anyway. Like, he's still going to be like one of the best LEC mid laners. Still always was a top 3 mid laner. Still playing like a top 3 mid laner. The bot lane of Hansama and Mickey X, still a great strength for G2. I think this is still going to be a front runner team to win the split. So it's because remember, they're already locked for MSI. All they're doing right now is just getting in form for MSI, right? So who can G2 make the finals? And also, who would face G2 in the finals? Because who are, like, G2, next round, I think they're facing, like, Koi, right? And I'm pretty sure they'll just, yeah, they're facing Koi. That's a 2-0 right there for the most part, unless Koi just plays spoiler, right? Which I don't think is possible, like, at all, right? So let's go to Astralis. I think Astralis has looked pretty solid for the most part of the split. This is their best regular season finish ever for this org, right? Which is good for them. I think the addition of Leader has been really awesome. He's been a massive upgrade over Dejor. Leader's a player that's been just trashed on by the community for really no good reason. Yeah, I trashed on him when he was playing on Vitality that 1 year, and it was the LEC 2021 summer split, right? I think he played bad that year, but overall, I think that he's played really good for Astralis, right? Finn has looked pretty solid for them overall. Probably his best split too. Kabi and Janghoon, pretty solid bot lane overall. Astralis should definitely have maybe a few more wins on their board because some of their games, they've gotten ahead, but they just honestly haven't been able to close out against certain teams, right? They threw that game against Team BDS. And the thing with Team BDS, I'm going to tie it both into that team as well, is they've also had a great split as well. Adam looks like one of the best top laners. Guy looks great, honestly. Crowny, Lebrov, solid, good bot lane right now so far. You know, I think what made these two teams stronger last split, these teams have only just improved on. But there's a reason why people do not have them winning the split. Is because what happened last split? What happened toward the very end of last split? It was G2, Mad Lions, and Koi again, you know? And Fnatic's always been in that mix, too. I don't want to disrespect that legacy they have, but it's always been a combination of G2, Mad Lions, Fnatic, and Rogue slash Koi that have been like top 4 in the LEC for a while at this point, right? Now, the only way to break that is if one of these two teams would actually win the split. I just don't think that's gonna happen, you know? Like, that's when, because people have this, like, insurance that these other orgs will do it because they did it before, you know? And my thing here is, you know, how is Team BDS gonna look in the BO3s? Well, they looked pretty okay in the BO3s last time. How is that gonna look for them come again, you know? And that's the thing is, the regular season is one thing, playoffs is another thing, and having players that can definitely be clutch is one thing as well. So, while I think Team BDS played great this split, they definitely were one of the more underrated first places teams that I've seen. Like, they had a pretty quiet first place finish overall. Like, there were some games where they struggled to even win in a winning position. Now, remember, this all looks reflective of just the BO1s we've seen. Now in a BO3, let's see these teams play it all out, right? So, do you have faith, or do you think that Team BDS and Astralis can build on the success they had during the LEC 2023 Spring Split regular season, or will it be the same old G2, Mad Lions, Koi, top 3, you know, you might have a Fnatic that might sneak in there too, you know? Or maybe Team Vitality can finally get to a finals as an org ever and win a split, right? So that's going to be the pretty interesting thing coming up is what is indicative of one thing may not be what is indicative of the next stage for a format for League of Legends, right? Like, a team could play very good in one stage, but look like utter shit the next, and it's because, well, they're probably that bad or worse than what you think, but it's just the sample size of games you see is not indicative of how good they really are, because it is just one game, though. You know, but Team BDS does have strengths they can play through. But I think Team BDS and SK Gaming have the same weaknesses, which is their mid laners, right? I think their mid laners are some of the weaker mid laners coming up for the BO3 stage. But what do you guys think currently about the LEC 2023 Spring Split? Who do you think makes it past the BO3 stage? They're not going to start their season back up again for the BO3s until not this Saturday, but the next one, actually. So thought I, you know, just get in there and get my predictions done, obviously, right now. Obviously, I have Astralis winning over Fnatic 2-0. I got, you know what? F it. I'm going to put Mad Lions to win 2-0. I got BDS 2-0, and I got G2 2-0 as well, you know? But who knows? I might be wrong. And yeah, I got my LCS video coming up as well, covering the 2 weeks of the LCS 2023 Spring Split Playoffs. So yeah, more content is dropping, and I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, and subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. I'm MSK. This is Esports Content Entertainment, your one place for esports content. All right, see you guys later. Deuces. Peace.